Welcome everyone to the first video of my Python series where I'm going to go over a couple of basics and also challenge you to implement some engineering tasks using Python. So today we are going to get started with the package installer for Python, also known as pip, and we're also going to talk about your shell, specifically the bash shell. And while these two concepts don't really have to do with Python, they are fundamental for you to master if you want to quickly get code up and running. These are two fairly simple concepts. However, if you learn about them and if you become proficient at them, you're able to become a much better Python developer. And in addition, it's also fundamental for you to navigate repositories and install packages. So speaking of installing packages, today I'm going to teach you all how to get this cool matrix rain effect on your terminal as well via the pip installer. So let's dive right into it. Let's go ahead and stop this. And I'm just going to run a couple of quick commands. You don't have to worry about these. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the shell. So what is a shell? First of all, let me go ahead and exit all out of this. So what is a shell? Well, essentially, a shell is a program that you use to input commands to your operating system. So essentially, this is a program that accepts some sort of arguments or some sort of commands, so it's waiting for you to type in a command. And once you do type in a command and hit enter, it gives that command over to your operating system. And your operating system is basically the gigantic program that handles all the complexities of your computer. It handles which process gets resources and how it allocates resources. Basically, the OS is responsible for all of your software working on your computer. So we definitely want to go ahead and master how the shell works, especially as it relates to Python, so that we can also become more efficient engineers. So let's go ahead and get started with the shell. First off, I'm going to recommend that you all open up your VS Code or your Visual Studio Code. Go ahead and take a second to do that. Excuse me. And once you get that Visual Studio Code window open, you're going to go ahead and hover to the top left of your screen and click on Terminal. Now you should see a couple of options. The option that we want to highlight is New Terminal. So let's go ahead and click on that. Now, you might see if you're on Windows, let me just close out of all these. Yeah, so if you're on Windows, you might see this CMD option pop up, or this CMD shell pop up. This is the default terminal for Windows. However, if you're on a Mac, then you don't need to worry about this and you should already be on Bash. However, if you see CMD, I'm just going to recommend that you all switch to Git Bash. And if you don't have Git Bash installed to your computer yet, or the Git Bash shell installed to your computer yet, I'll be providing a link in the description below for you to install. And we'll be talking about that later as well. But anyways, I'm going to assume that you all have the bash shell installed, and bash is kind of just like a programming language or a type of shell. And keep in mind, a shell is just something that takes arguments and passes it to the OS. And the reason that I want us all to use bash shell is just so that we're all standardized, and also whenever we feed programs or pass programs to a computing environment, it's usually done in bash. So if you're on Windows and you don't have bash yet, you're going to go ahead and click on this drop-down menu, and you should see an option for Git Bash. Once again, if you're on a Mac, you do not need to do this. Your default shell is going to be something that's very, very similar to bash. All right, so now that we've got this bash shell open, let's go ahead and explore a couple of commands. The first command I want you all to familiarize yourselves with is pwd. And this stands for print working directory. Basically, print the path of the directory that you're in at the moment. So when you are working in your bash shell, think about it like this. You are going from folder to folder, and you're executing some sort of commands, and you're only able to see one folder at a time. It's not like the graphical user interface or the GUI, where you're able to just see every single folder and you're able to just quickly use, or you're able to just hover over folders and double click them to access. Instead, you're basically looking at one folder at a time, and you are using discrete commands to go to those folders. And honestly, using the terminal is often faster than using the GUI, because in the GUI, you have to kind of look around to find what you want. But if you're using the terminal, you can basically jump around from folder to folder without having to do this. Let me show you all exactly what I mean. So I'm going to type in PWD. And as you can see, I'm currently in my user folder. You should also be within your personal user folder as well. Now let's say I want to navigate to another folder. Specifically, I want to navigate to the desktop /TKH folder. How can I go about that? Well, from there, I'm going to go ahead. Well, to do this, I need to use the cd command. And cd stands for change directory. Let me just write this out. And once again, I really do recommend watching this at 1.5 speed. So change directory. Now, cd is a little bit different from pwd. You'll notice that before, when I typed in pwd, I didn't provide any sort of argument afterwards or any sort of keyword. But here for cd, I need to name the path of the folder that I want to change to, essentially. So currently, I am in my user directory or my user folder. Let's go ahead and move to desktop. I'm going to go ahead and also, in fact, even before I type in cd and then the folder that I want to go to, let me also introduce one more command called ls. ls is a command that I believe indicates list. And let me actually pause for a second. All right, yeah, so to be honest, I actually had to pause for a second to figure out what ls stood for. Kind of forget these things sometimes. But anyways, ls actually just stands for list. Yeah, it's kind of like an abbreviation for list. And what are we listing? We're listing every single folder and file that exists within our current working directory. So as you can see, currently I am in my user directory. So if I type in ls, I'm going to list every single folder and file that exists within my user directory. Observe. All right, very cool. So as you can see, we have a bunch of folders, some folders that I've actually never seen before in my regular GUI. Maybe they're hidden folders. Hopefully this isn't anything sensitive. But anyways, yeah, I noted, let me just make this a little bit larger. Yeah, hopefully you see this better. But as you can see, I have my desktop folder, my downloads folder, my documents folder, and these are just the same folders that you'll observe in your C drive, or rather in your user directory for Windows as well. If you're on Windows, for Mac it might be a little different. But anyways, I'm interested in getting into desktop. So I'm going to go ahead and type in cd desktop. Now within desktop, I have another folder called TKH. So once again, I'm going to type in cd TKH. Now I'm actually within my folder called label TKH, where I basically keep all of my GitHub repositories relevant for TKH. Anyways, so that is a quick refresher on how we can use cd, pwd, and ls. cd, pwd, and ls. And I really, really do challenge you all to use your terminal as often as possible. Try not to rely on the GUI too much. The transition from GUI to terminal is definitely an important one, as it will basically help you do actions a lot faster. Not only that, one thing I want to point out is that Bash also has an autocomplete feature. Check this out. So I have a folder within my TKH folder called environment human, I believe. If I can spell environment. Close enough. Anyways, let's say I want to access this folder. So you would think I would have to type out every single letter, but check this out. I can actually type in the first 3 letters, and then I can hit tab. What happens is Bash actually auto-completes that folder name for me. And you might have seen me do this before, where I basically type at like 1 million miles a second, but really what's going on is I'm just hitting tab and I'm letting Bash autocomplete for me. Now, of course, if you have multiple folders called environment that begin with environment, it might be a little difficult to get to exactly what you want. It will autocomplete up to a certain point, and then the rest Bash will rely on you to complete. Anyways, I'm going to type in cd environment human, and as you can see, now I'm inside of a folder called environment human, which is actually a Git repository. Once again, if I type in ls, as you can see, I have a bunch of Python files and Markdown files. So that is a brief introduction to shell. One more thing that I want to give you all as well is cd ... This is essentially the command to go up, to go to the folder that's above the folder that you're currently in. So for example, currently I am in environment human. I'm just going to abbreviate that as EH. Well, above environment human, I have the folder TKH. And above that, I have the folder desktop. So as I'm currently within environment human, let's say I want to get back to TKH, well, I would go ahead and type in cd space ... and this will actually bring me back to the folder. Not necessarily that I was before at, but in the folder that exists above my other folder, the folder that this folder is currently nested in, if that makes any sense. So check this out. If I type in pwd, as you can see, we have users, my username, desktop, TKH environment human. Let's say I want to get to this folder right here, TKH. I'm going to type in cd ... and we're back in TKH. I'm going to be providing a list of these commands for you within the notes. Please make sure to review them, and please make sure, most importantly, to use them within your workflow. This will help you become a much better developer. I guarantee it. So definitely take this to heart. All right. So that was a brief introduction to bash commands. Of course, we have many more bash commands. In fact, we could even treat bash kind of like a programming language. There are for loops, there's variables, bash is a highly functional language, we can call it. But anyways, we're not interested in learning bash. Let's go ahead and keep moving forward, and let's talk about pip. So what the heck is pip? Pip, I believe, is an abbreviation for package installer for Python. So what does that mean? What is a package installer for Python? Well, if you go in the pip website, and I'll be providing a link for that as well, you should see the ability to search for projects. You kind of have like a Google search bar there. And what you could do is you could type in a specific functionality that you're looking for, maybe something like a calculator or a file reader, and pip will actually show you a project that someone else engineered that implements exactly what you're looking for. This goes back to the concept of not reinventing the wheel. Once again, we recommend to not reinvent the wheel. If something exists already, then go ahead and then use that package or use that module. Today, we're interested in downloading a module called Matrix Rain. And let me show you all exactly where I found this. Let me share my entire screen. All right. So once again, this right here is pip. There we go. Yeah, as you can see, we can find, install, and publish Python packages. We could even publish our own Python packages, which is pretty cool, right? Lend some credibility to our work, or make our work open source. As you can see, we have 443,000 projects, and let's go ahead and specifically take a look at Matrix Rain. Okay, so if you're a fan of the Matrix film, Matrix movies, then you should recognize this pattern of green character Rain that kind of represents information on a computer. Good luck reading this. There's definitely no information going on here, but it's still a cool visual effect. So let's go ahead and figure out some basics of pip by installing this package. Once again, I really do recommend that you follow along with me. I'm going to pause every now and then, or rather, I recommend that you will pause the video every now and then to follow along with these steps to get a sort of understanding as to, or rather just to try out these features yourself, so it's not just me lecturing at you, right? So, all right, let's go ahead and make it rain on our terminal. Let's see here. Where was I? Here I was. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and clear my terminal by typing in clear, and as you can see, everything is gone. So you should have pip installed to your computer already. If you don't, then we'll go through a separate tutorial as to how to actually install pip. It's going to be the video labeled 0. I'll link that in the description as well. But anyways, if we take a look back to the website describing how we install this package, you'll see that we have this immediate command that we can use immediately out of the box. So let's go ahead and copy this command. And I'm going to go ahead and paste it in here. And as you can see, this command is actually quite simple. It's just the name of the package manager, pip, the command that we want, which is install, and then finally the package that we want, which in this case is Matrix Rain. And you might be familiar with this as well when you install pandas, pip install pandas, or when you install NumPy. Also a familiar process. Anytime we want to install any package, this is the workflow that we're going to go through. Now, if you're on a Mac computer, then I recommend that you might do something like this, pip3 install Matrix Rain. Yeah, I believe Mac OS relies on pip3 as opposed to the Windows pip. However, if you're on a Windows machine, then I recommend trying out the following. Pip install --user Matrix Rain. And let me go ahead and blow this text up just so that you can see exactly what it is. Pip install --user Matrix Rain. So this is what you're going to execute or type into your terminal if you're on a Windows. And then if you're on a Mac, you're going to go ahead and type in pip3 install Matrix Rain. So I recommend trying this out in your VS Code terminal as well. I'm going to pause for a second. I recommend that you pause as well. Try this out on your computer, and let's see what happens. All right, so hopefully you've executed this command on your terminal. And let's go ahead and see what happened, and hopefully you'll see something similar. All right, looks like I have a couple of requirements satisfied. And then finally, I have installing collected packages Matrix Rain, successfully installed Matrix Rain version 1.02. All right, so hopefully you see the success message as well. If you don't, then that means we might need to take a look at your pip a little bit closer. Maybe we need to upgrade your version of pip. Once again, though, I recommend the 15-minute rule. If something's not working, take 15 minutes to try to fix it yourselves. You can learn a lot just by struggling with an issue in 15 minutes. And then finally, after 15 minutes, if the solution or if the problem still isn't fixed, then go ahead and reach out to a human or maybe even ChatGPT these days, right? But anyways, now that we have this installed, let's go ahead and take a look at the usage of this package. All right, and by the usage, I mean how this package is supposed to be used. All right, so that's installation. And then as you can see, we have the usage. We just type in matrix_rain, feed in some options if we want to, and we'll talk more about flags later. But I'm just going to go ahead and type this out without any additional options, and let's see what happens. Matrix_rain. Rain. Oh, okay. Let me pause for a second here. All right, so that didn't go how I planned it to go. So basically what's going on here is that instead of seeing colors, we actually see the color code of each text, which is green, which is definitely not what we want. So I'm going to go ahead and roll with the punches here. Hopefully this doesn't happen on your Mac, but if you're on a Windows, if you're a Windows user, then go ahead and go into the command prompt instead. So it really doesn't matter if you go on command prompt or bash in this example, because implementing Matrix Rain is not fundamental for our engineering projects. So anyways, I'm just going to go ahead and demo this command line tool. And as you can see, we have a Matrix Rain pattern. Once again, unfortunately, I'm not on a Mac, so maybe this is working better on your Mac OSs. For my bash, it didn't work as well. However, if you're on a Windows and you saw the same issue with bash, then go ahead and just switch to command prompt, and then you should be good to go. All right, so that's how we use pip, and that's how we use the terminal. In the next couple of videos, we will actually be talking about Python. See you there.